Hey everybody, my name's TSW and in this video I'm going to be going through the tactics for Grand Empress Shek'zeer, the final boss in Heart of Rage. This is going to be on 25-man normal mode, so let's kick things off with phase 1. Now the most important thing and the mechanic which will tend to frustrate you or wipe you the most is the Dissonance Field. Now throughout phase 1 the boss will be launching 2 rings on the ground near where the ranged are. You'll see one to the right of the boss and one to the left of the boss in the background. Now these Dissonance Fields will slowly reduce their health, and when they reach 0 they will explode, dealing 200,000 damage to the raid. Obviously them both going off at the same time will just one-shot everybody in your raid. So in order to get around this, there's a debuff going around 2 players in the raid on 25-man called Cry of Terror. Now this will do a little bit of damage to the player, but what you want to do is when you get this is to run over to one specific Dissonance Field, and always make sure it's the same one for every player getting Cry of Terror debuff, so that one of the Dissonance Fields reduces its health faster than the other, because that's what running in with the Cry of Terror debuff does. It reduces the health of the Dissonance Field, which means it detonates faster. So as you see, we've detonated one, so the one on the left now detonates at a much later time, which is ideal, so you can heal people up between the 2 AoEs. And then you see the next Dissonance Field, and you repeat this in phase 1. With regards to tanking, there will be a tanking debuff which will stack on the guys tanking, called Eye of the Empress. Now what this does is nothing. It does nothing unless it stacks 5 times. So just don't let it stack 5 times. It's really easy. You can taunt off on 2 or 3 stacks at latest. But I mean, you can taunt off on 4 stacks at the very latest. But I mean, yeah, it just depends how frequently you want to switch your tanks. We do it on 2 or 3 stacks. But make sure you don't hit 5, because then the tank will be mind controlled and deal more damage. Can't be CC'd, won't die, and you lose a tank, which isn't very good, because yeah, you only want to really bring 2 tanks to this fight. Okay, so that's phase 1 in a nutshell. In order to progress to phase 2, you need to survive long enough for the boss to have his energy reach 0. And when the boss reaches 0 energy, that's when phase 2 starts. Now with a perhaps exception for phase 3, phase 2 is pretty fun. Maybe the most fun. So what you're going to do is get a load of adds spawning. Symmetrical, like the same numbers from each side. What I'm going to do is tank the big guys, who'll deal, you know, not a huge amount of damage, but they will have this massive green frontal cone AoE. So make sure you face them away from the rest of the raid. We've got our other tank tanking every single one of the other mobs. You need to have reasonable gear for this, ideally some heroic gear from Mongoose and Volts. Just bear in mind you're going to need to use cooldowns and, you know, call upon external cooldowns as well if you are tanking the rest of the mobs. So what you want to do here is basically the main thing to take away from this encounter is the sticky resin, which the Sethic wind blades will do on the floor. Basically there'll be a very small puddle of orange on the floor. Now what you want to do is as a DPS you want to run over this resin on the floor, and what you want to do is then meet up with somebody else with the resin on a, well, we've got some markers on the floor. I think we've got green and blue markers on the floor. So meet up with somebody else with the resin, and that will plonk a pile of resin on the floor. When you're carrying the resin, to carry it you just run over the resin on the floor. So then the resin then sticks to you, it reduces your speed by 30%, so just meet up with somebody else on a predetermined spot, in our case, like I say, green and blue, aka triangle and square. Meet up here, and when you have 5 resins all stacked on top of each other, it will create a big gold ice block, aka a amber trap. So you see to the immediately behind the adds I'm tanking, there's the pool on the floor. That is where we are taking all of the sticky resin. Okay, so we have 1 sticky resin pile at blue, 1 sticky resin pile at green. As soon as you get the trap spawning at green, we then start to plonk all the amber resin at blue. We create 2 traps, and then you want to drag, in my case, my adds, the 2 big adds, into these traps, because excuse me, when they are in the traps, they take damage and they will die. You don't have to do any damage to them throughout phase, excuse me, I got hiccups, in phase 2, because the traps will just kill them outright. Now the ads in phase 2, the rest of the ads, they'll do some AoE, it's, you know, very healable. They'll also do some random damage, so just keep everyone healed up and it's fine. You don't need to worry too much about it. Just bear in mind that the tank who is handling all the ads is going to be taking a lot of damage, because the mobs have an ability which means when they're within 8 yards of each other, they're going to deal more damage. So, you know, that's not particularly fun, but I mean, like, yeah, if you have decent gear, or not even decent gear, reasonable gear, you should be able to do this even if you're in full normal mode gear, as long as you've got some strong heals. You know, that's all you need to worry about. All you need to worry about is using some kind of raid cooldown for the Dissonance Field. Again, we're back in phase 1. After you kill the ads, you go back into phase 1. Just use some sort of AoE raid cooldown for the Dissonance Field when they erupt upon reaching 0 health. I'm using my demoralizing banner, rallying cry, etc. And you'll be fine. You don't need to use raid cooldowns for any other time except for phase 3, when the boss reaches 30%. So yeah, you can really just use your healing cooldowns for that phase. You don't need to really worry about doing a lot of healing in phase 1, because, you know, it's just the tanks taking a little bit of damage, and then the people getting the Cry of Terror debuff and having to run in the Dissonance Field, just heal them up. But you need to focus like mad the tank who's getting all but 2 of the ads in phase 2. Okay, so we're pretty close to hitting 30%, which will trigger phase 3. Now, again, remember, whenever you're in phase 1 or phase 3, the tanks are going to have to be contending with the Eye of Empress debuff. Don't forget about this in phase 3, because the worst thing that could probably happen is having one of your tanks mind controlled or transformed, or whatever the term is. But yeah, so you have this Vision of Demise debuff, which you see like I think 3 people at once, assuming everyone's alive. There are 3. When people start dying, it's like 2. But yeah, you get the Vision of Demise debuff. What you want to do is just run out of the raid when this happens, because you will, I think you'll fear people when this happens for 8 seconds. So yeah, you don't want everyone to be feared, because that means no heals on the tanks, and the tanks are going to get killed. So yeah, that's a big concern. That's the most important thing, I'd say. That's the real dunce's hat when that happens. Visions of Demise, run out of the raid, okay? We figured this out after killing the boss, but what you want to do is ideally run to a specific location when you have the Visions of Demise debuff, because you can just be mass dispelled and you can run immediately back into the raid, instead of having to wait for the duration of it, and then, you know, you'll fear anyone within 8 yards of you. Oh wait, there's no one there, so, you know, you can just come back. But yeah, mass dispelling everyone who has the Visions of Demise debuff every single time it's applied to people is handy if they are all at a specific single location. We were just running it anywhere, so that wasn't that amazing. Okay, so the boss is also going to have a Consuming Terror ability, which is the frontal cone, which will fear anybody in it. And what you want to do is basically just avoid this cone. It's almost identical to the Spirit King's front cone AoE, except instead of doing a load of damage to the tank, it will just fear anybody there. Everyone just run through, including the tank. You know, no one take this. Just run through the boss, and you'll have yourself like, I don't know, 8 seconds, 6 seconds worth of just no damage on the tanks, which is great. You know, you can take that time as a warrior to spend your rage on an execute or 2, not having to worry about any sort of shield block. So that's kind of cool. As well as the healers, you know, if you're going to use Divine Plea or whatever, you know, use it then. If you're running low, just spam a load of raid healing, some raid cooldowns, you know, sparkle some magic left, right and centre. And again, tanks taunt off each other before you reach 5 stacks of the Eyes of Empress. It's a fairly straightforward fight. The most important thing is phase 2. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, thumbs up. If you've got any questions, leave me a comment down below. And if you're not subscribed and want to see more videos like this when I release them, subscribe. I've been TSW, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye.